don't be that guy. And by that I mean, take a look at the news, see what's topical today, and think about what's important to the other person, not necessarily what's important to you. So let's talk about that. If you look at the news today, staffing, probably number one. People can't find people in their businesses. Inflation, certainly, interest rates. But staffing, at least in what we do, is one of the biggest problems that business owners have. So let's take a look at that. If you are talking to somebody, you previously would talk about how is COVID affecting your business, et cetera, et cetera. If you ask now, particularly in healthcare, but it goes across the board, you hear about this from teachers to restaurant workers to any business really, the owners will say the biggest problem they have is finding people that want to work, or at least finding people. So remember that when you're talking to these people, and I'll give you an example. I talked to a prospect last week, and he said, I want to sell my business. I said, okay. So what are your problems? He says, incoming business, not a problem. I'm basically drinking through a fire hose. The problem is that I can't find people to work the way I need to find people. So what does that mean? And then he says, well, that means I'm working 7 days a week. I get up at 3:30 in the morning, and I go all day long. This is in healthcare. He's a nurse. Okay. So let me ask you a question. How are you working to find people? He said, well, really not. I mean, I'm putting an ad in or whatever else I'm doing, but 7 days a week? No, I don't have the time to find people. So think about that. So rather than talk about COVID to a person like that, talk about what is in their world today and what needs to be fixed. So one of the reasons, talking to him again, that you can't find people is you just can't spend the time to dedicate towards finding people, right? Yeah, I'm working 7 days a week, like I said. So you have time. Your team has time. And so therefore you have something to offer that person in terms of why they would sell all or part. And part is usually the one that really resonates the best, because that person now is still an owner in a minority ownership position. They don't feel like an employee, which is probably why they got in business originally. They wanted to be an owner. So think about that. Inflation certainly is there, costs are there, but staffing is a big, big issue today, and your team can do it. So how does that relate to not only the businesses you want to acquire, but to you as well? So there may be many things you want to get done. You don't have enough time in the day to do them, so they get pushed aside or don't get done. Now you've learned the value of a team by putting together your board, but think beyond that. Think how you can spend most of your time on the highest and best use of your time. And I've talked about this before. I'm going to end up doing a course, working on that right now, on how to outsource. But if you haven't gotten a VA, I would highly suggest that you do that. A VA in the Philippines is going to surprise you what the pricing is. And if you have the right VA, they are actually pushing you. What can I do? What else can I do? Which is a pretty nice situation to be in. I'd love having that happen to me as well. So think about what's topical. Don't be that guy that assumes you know what the other person is going through and the problems. Ask, what do you struggle with? And then use your team to come up with a solution to that. And if you do that, you're going to resonate much better and be much more successful in interacting with those people, finding prospects, and ultimately closing deals. So if you have gotten my emails, great. If not, go over to brucewhipple.com. Just grab a free class. That'll put you on the email list there. You get 3 emails a week. And then from that point forward, be sure that you're listening to the podcast, listening to the YouTube. And recently we've come up on TikTok. So if you go over there and do a tag and a share, I'd appreciate that. And it's Bruce Whipple Official. There's a few Bruce Whipples on TikTok. So in any event, but remember, think about what's important to the other person, think about what's topical in the news, and use those messages and solutions to target not what's important to you, but what's important to the other person when you talk to them.